Hello, and welcome to Of the People. Thanks for joining us again. Democrats and democracy. The Democrat mantra, and ladies and gentlemen, it is not the Democratic Party. It is the Democrat Party. And the distinctions are important here. The Democrat mantra is always save democracy. Everything is save democracy with them. You can't elect the evil Donald Trump because we need to save democracy. You have to drive an electric car because you have to save democracy. You can't own guns because we have to save democracy. You can't eat meat. You shouldn't use oil. All those things are to save democracy. But I have to tell you, after the events of the current week, I cannot think of anything more undemocratic than, what should we call it, the soft coup that was perpetrated in front of our very eyes to remove a sitting president from his reelection campaign. And obviously we're talking Joe Biden. It's very clear once he became a liability and he outlived his usefulness and his purpose, he had to go. But let's recall the facts here. Fact number one is, in the history of presidential debates, there has never been a presidential debate before a convention. So why have it this year? Why intentionally put up your candidate or the sitting president when you know he's enfeebled, you know he is mentally not, his mental acuity is not there, right? Unless you wanted him to fail. And by the way, all of us who saw the debates, here was a guy that was pumped up on something, Adderall, something, and he still failed miserably. So you have to realize that this was done intentionally before the convention, but after he had secured all the delegates, right? So it raises the question, and I know as an aside, where is that interview that special counsel Robert Hur did? Remember, it came out in 2024, the Biden classified document scandal, that Robert Hur basically said, and he was a legally appointed special prosecutor by Merrick Garland, basically said he's a kind old man with a poor memory and no jury would convict him. And even then, he was unfit to serve. Right? So no charges. Now, look, I've been saying this for a long time on this podcast. Ericka, bear me out as my witness, is we have said 6 months, a year, that Joe Biden would not be the president. And it's very simple. They made him an offer he couldn't refuse, right? A la the Godfather. There'll be one of two things on this piece of paper, your signature or your brains. And in this case, he had two choices. Either you leave voluntarily and you can keep your ill-gotten booty over 52 years of a public career. You can keep your son out of jail and just go quietly into the sunset. Or if you don't leave, we'll destroy your family, we'll eradicate your wealth, and your son's going to jail. Now I don't know that for a fact, that's my opinion, but you want friends in politics, ladies and gentlemen, buy a dog, because this is hardcore politics. And the godfathers, whether it's Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and others, basically made him an offer that he couldn't refuse. What's going to end up happening here is he will leave office and pardon his son on the way out, or they're going to invoke the 25th Amendment, have him leave office, have Kamala Harris ascend to the presidency temporarily, and she will run for quote unquote re-election as a sitting president with the understanding that she will also pardon Hunter Biden. That deal is in the works. But it raises a larger question here. Is the Democrat Party, in fact, democratic? Clearly, they don't believe in democracy based on what we just saw, and democracy is an inconvenient little thing they need to work around. This is, after all, the party that gave us masks, forced it on the country, gave us a COVID lockdown, shut down schools even after the Trust the Science said that schools were doing harm, the shutdowns were doing harm, and we should reopen the schools. Right? Defend the vulnerable, all those kinds of things. And these are the same people that the sky is always falling and it's the end of the world if we don't cut our carbon emissions, if we don't, stop eating meat, if we don't join this climate accord, if we don't, all of these things that they say that the world is ending and they have to save democracy. The problem is to save democracy, they're destroying it, right? And then what we talked about in the opening is their real underlying cause is for the safety of all, right? Or their underlying raison d'etre is for the safety of all. For the safety of all, because who is not for the safety of all? How could you not be for the safety of all? For the safety of all, you have to get a vaccine. For the safety of all, you have to wear a mask. For the safety of all, you should stop eating red meat. And oh, by the way, for the safety of all, you shouldn't own guns because guns are bad and guns kill people, which, by the way, as of today, in her first true campaign speech after becoming the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party, what's the first topic Vice President Kamala Harris goes after? Guns. We're going to take the guns, red flag laws, gun control, and get rid of those evil weapons, right? So the real question then becomes, who are the election deniers? Because now they're even against the Supreme Court because the decisions aren't going their way. And don't forget, this is the same Democrat Party that in 2000, and I was there, ladies and gentlemen, part of the Bush campaign, where they said President Bush, Bush 43, was not constitutionally elected. He was installed by judicial fiat. That's your election denier. Fast forward to 2016, President Trump wins the election. Hillary Clinton, in word, right, depends on what the meaning of the word is, concedes the election and then goes on to say that Donald Trump is an illegitimate president because the Russians interfered and helped him get into office. And that mantra has gone on for 4 years, in this case, 8 years. So who are the real election deniers? Please remember something. Our system of government, the power is supposed to flow from the bottom up, from we the people to our public officials, not the other way around. We are also supposed to live free from fear of government harm or interference. How's that working for you? If they can go after Donald Trump on these trumped up charges, pun fully intended, they can come after us. So the Democrat mantra, see, even I say it, rings hollow when they say they're about saving democracy, because they're not really about saving democracy, unless, of course, they're going to do it by very undemocratic means. So I propose a new name for the Democrat Party. You have the Republican Party on one side, and on the other side, it's not the Democrat Party. It's the Autocrat Party. And that is today's monologue.